Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do my wrap-up for the Mangafreakathon. Was hosted by Bizarre Individual, Mama Loves Manga, and the Panda Post. And it ran the week, and then ran for the week and ended on October 31st. And obviously it's kind of got a spooky theme for Halloween. I read quite a few titles that fit the theme, but I also read quite a few things that came in the mail that I had pre-ordered that don't fit the theme, but it's nice to have a break from the morbid, creepy theme, so I threw in some shoujo titles and whatnot as well. But anyway, I started off with the 4-in-1 omnibus of Another. This is one that I was super excited to read because I watched the anime when it first came out years ago. I don't read light novels, so I've never read the light novel, but this is a manga that I have wanted to read since I watched that anime, but just never got around to it, and finally decided to pick it up, and it is 4 volumes in one. It is a very thick book, but it's basically about this boy who moves to the town that his mother grew up in, and he goes to this classroom and there's something strange going on, but nobody will really tell him what's going on. He has this classmate that nobody else seems to see, and so he is like, is this girl real? Is she not real? What's going on here? Why are my classmates acting weird? And then, of course, people start dying, and there's a whole mystery surrounding what's going on, and this curse, and it's pretty good. The anime was better than the manga because the anime was able to flesh out a lot of things, no pun intended. There were so many more gruesome deaths in the anime that just didn't make it into the manga, unfortunately. So there's certain death scenes that really, years later, it's now been like probably like 8 years maybe, because I think I was in 10th grade when that came out. But anyway, there are deaths that stick in my mind that the manga just didn't cover, unfortunately, but either way, I did enjoy it. Next, I reread Satoshi Kon's Tropic of the Sea. This is my second time reading this, but it's been a few years since I read it the first time. I love this cover. I really love this manga as well. It's a one-shot story about this town that is kind of industrializing. It's a seaside town that is protected by mermaids, and so this town is entrusted with keeping a mermaid egg safe for like 65 years, and then they're supposed to return it to the sea, and then they get a new egg to protect. And but with the industrialization happening, people are believing less and less in, this mystical being who is supposedly protecting their town. And so, yeah, it's got a bit of an environmentalist kind of spin to it. And but I really like it, honestly, for what it is. It's a short and sweet story. Next up, I read the first volume of Black Lagoon. This is they're like bandits who are doing odd jobs, usually involving guns, stealing, violence, and they kidnap this guy, this salary worker dude, who ends up kind of joining their crew. And yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't really know much about it going into it, so. And then I reread The Strange Tale of Panorama Island by Asuehiro Maruo. This is the manga version. I love this story. Loved it the first time I read it. Loved it the second time. I will continue to love it every time I read this book. It is creepy and weird and mystical, and like, it's so breathtaking. It's about this guy who assumes the identity of this guy that looks like him, who's rich, after he dies, because he is poor, struggling author who wants to build this heaven on earth panorama island, this mystical place full of just sex and beauty and whatever is in this guy's imagination. So he basically assumes the identity of this dead rich man who looks like him so that he can live out this fantasy of his. And it's creepy and so like mesmerizing. Next up, I reread a couple Junji Ito titles because it's been a few years. I really want to read Shibuya Goldfish, put out by Yen Press, but I don't own any of it yet. And so I thought, well, if I'm in the mood for killer fish things, I might as well reread Gyo. So that's what I did. I really liked it. I mean, I've read it before, but it's been a couple years now. So it was a fun ride, 2 volumes in one, and I quite enjoyed it. I may have enjoyed it actually more on the reread than I enjoyed it the first time. And then I also read the short story collection Fragments of Horror, because again, it's been a few years, I think, since I've read this. I own most of Junji Ito's titles, and I've only read them once through. So it's been a few years since I read Fragments of Horror. I actually really enjoyed this one on the reread. I didn't remember like any of these stories. When I started reading them, I remembered some of them, but I couldn't have told you just looking at the cover which stories were included in this one. So I was happy to reread that and kind of get a refresher. Then took a break from creepy stuff and read volume 10 of Shortcake Cake because this came in the mail. Very cute, continues to be cute, probably almost done, I think, at 13 volumes. So this is a really adorable cover with kind of like Christmas color scheme, which is kind of cute. Then I read another one that came in, Love Me, Love Me Not, volume 5. Everyone's pretty much talking about this one. Still enjoying it. Cannot wait for the next volume. And then another one came in, Sweat and Soap, volume 4. This was a really good volume, kind of progressing their relationship, telling people in their lives about their relationship, which is a big step. This continues to be an amazing adult romance, workplace, but also family and friend life as an adult and dating, and I love it. It's so good. Next, I reread Abara by Tsutomu Nihei. This is another one that I enjoyed much more on the reread. The first time I read it, didn't like it. I was actually kind of mad at myself that I bought it because it's quite expensive, and I didn't enjoy it the first time I read it. Tsutomu Nihei's works, I find, are a bit hard to follow. I read Knights of Sidonia from my library, and I enjoyed it. Not enough to try and to buy those big editions, because those are expensive, but I enjoyed it, and I thought, oh, I'll get this when it came out, because it's just a one and done purchase. But I enjoyed it more on the reread than I did the first time, because I actually was able to pay attention more and like really figure out what was going on. But yeah, it's, same, very little dialogue, some kind of alien creature situation, amazing artwork. Then I reread volume 1 of Switch. I was hoping to read more of it during the readathon, but unfortunately I didn't continue reading it. This is a 13-volume series about these two detectives. Are they detectives? No, they're in the, they're like narcotics control. I can't remember the acronym. It is escaping me. They deal with drugs, and taking in people who are selling and doing drugs. But it basically, one of our main characters has a bit of a personality switching issue, and there's obviously drugs involved in this story. I don't remember too much about it. It's been a couple years since I've read it, but I wanted to start rereading it, and I figured this readathon would be a good time to do it because it's kind of a darker title, but I just wasn't in the mood for it after reading volume 1, so I didn't go back and read any more of it, but it is a good series. I do have a review on my channel of it from the last time I read it. Then I reread Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart because this is a really creepy, dark boys' love series about this serial killer from the early 1900s who is getting like reincarnated in him, and his victims are getting reincarnated, and so his victims' reincarnations are like having these weird memories of being murdered by this guy that they don't know. And it's really dark, and Sundae's art is excellent. This is a good story, but it's not for the faint of heart. Then I read the Visbig 3-in-1 edition of Inuyasha. This is volume 6 of the 3-in-1s. Yeah, I mean, I've read Inuyasha before many times. I've watched it before many times. It's just a fun trip down memory lane. And I honestly, like, yes, it's nostalgia, but the story is still gripping to me. And I'm just kind of plugging through these as I feel like it, but it's fun, and I love the characters. And I would recommend reading it if you've never read it before. Then I read volume 4 of Blue Flag, another amazing volume in this series, drama, romance, growing up, coming of age tale. I won't open it because I don't want to spoil anything, but another really great volume. And then I started rereading Soul Eater earlier in the month, so this is volume 5. I know that the newer, Square Enix is publishing 1.5 volume editions in hardcover. I do already own all the singles, so I won't be picking up the new editions, but I've been in the mood to reread it because it's been like 2.5 years since I read it last. So I figured it fit the theme. And then I read volume 25 of The Wallflower. This is one that I've been plugging away at. I own 29 volumes of it. Bought it a couple years ago, and it's about these four pretty boys who want to live rent-free in this mansion. So the landlady, or the woman who owns the mansion, I guess, her niece is a bit scary, and she wants the boys to turn her niece into a lady. And if she is turned into a lady, then they get to live rent-free. And it's a gag, kind of ridiculous series. Another volume of Soul Eater. Love this cover. I'm interested to see what the rest of the covers for the newer editions of Soul Eater are going to look like, because I really love the covers for the singles, and I especially love all the artwork on the back of all the singles. So, you know, I'm interested to see what they do with the hardcovers. And then I read volume 3 of Perfect World. It's a josei work that quite a few people are talking about. I enjoyed it. Continuing to enjoy it, I guess I should say. It's got a bit more, or a lot more sad, I guess, in this volume, as our main characters are kind of trying to deal with their relationship and how it's kind of negatively affecting their lives, kind of respectively, in various ways. And they're kind of trying to figure out whether or not they are actually good for each other's mental health. Always a tough decision to make and discussion to have. And then next up, I reread the Neo-Parasite, anthology collections, Neo-Parasite F and Neo-Parasite M. These are stories by a bunch of well-known mangaka who wrote little short stories based in the Parasite universe. So some of them do have their own take on characters that actually exist in the series Parasite, while others are just completely new characters that exist in the world of Parasite. I enjoy both of these. There's quite a few creators in both anthologies that I really like, and so it's fun to see, mangaka that you enjoy make something for a series that you enjoy, because I love Parasite. But yeah, I mean, Oh, there's I think Ueshiba, I think his name is, who does Mysterious Girlfriend X. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed rereading these because it's been a couple of years and I didn't really remember most of the stories from them. So it was a lot of fun. And they're creepy, obviously, because it's set in the universe of Parasite. So they're kind of, some of them are gruesome. Most of them are, sort of horror based. So that was fun. Next up, I read volume 2 of Gigant. This one was a lot more sexually explicit, but this is about a high school boy who meets his favorite porn star, and she has this thing on her wrist that can turn her into a giant, and they're trying to figure out what that is about and why it's happening, why it's also and why her, and yeah. Classic Hiroya Oku ridiculousness. Then I read this. This has got to be one of my new favorite covers. I didn't know what this cover looked like when I pre-ordered this because the cover art wasn't finalized on the site that I had bought it from. I pre-ordered this so many months ago because I liked Ranma Rosaria's other work, Liquor and Cigarettes, so Birds of Shangri-La seemed like the way to go. But when this arrived and I opened it up and was not expecting this picture, I was like, oh, okay, I have reached a new level of trash. And I'm okay with that. But this was excellent. This is about a kind of felt like the strange tale of Panorama Island in an interesting way, because it is an island with a all-male brothel owned by a very rich man. And he's just got all these beautiful boys ready to service the hand-picked clients that this rich man allows onto this island and into his paradise. And our story follows a straight man who has come to work on this island at this brothel because he's in desperate need of money. And here he is on the back here. And so his new, this is the guy who is training him at his new job. And yeah, it is really good, actually. I mean, not that I was expecting it not to be, because Liquor and Cigarettes was amazing, but I can't wait for the next one of this. And unfortunately, when I looked it up, it looks like it's not coming out till like mid-2021. So that is a damn shame. But this was really good. And then I was just in a real gay mood, so I read Can an Otaku Like Me Really Be an Idol? This is a Kuma title, subsection of Faku, who does hentai manga. This one is actually explicit. Unlike all the other Kuma titles that I've purchased, this one is actually explicit. The rest of them have no sex at all in them. But this one is about this really cute boy who dresses like an idol and this classmate who is enamored with him, I guess. But yeah, the cute stuff. I don't know. I didn't like the characters very much, and it was okay. I wasn't expecting to like this very much, but I've been buying all of Kuma's titles because I want to support them and hope that they release more great things, because I've enjoyed every other title that they've released so far. This one is my least favorite by far, but yeah, it was fine. I also love that, they have to say in the back of it that all characters depicted are over the age of majority, being 18, irrespective of the what does it say? It made me laugh. All characters depicted in sexual or erotic acts in this publication are the age of majority or older, notwithstanding suggestions otherwise presented within the work. Which makes me laugh, because the very first sentence, or one of the very first sentences when you open this up, is this boy saying, "I'm 16 years old." And I just love that it's like, they are the age of majority, even though it says in the work that they're not. It made me laugh. Then, still in a queer space, I read A Tropical Fish Yearns for Snow, Volume 5. Continues to be a really cute girls' love series. Our characters are kind of dealing with what you do when you're in high school. What do we want to do with our lives? Where do we want to go? They live in a very small town, and our third-year character here, she's kind of battling with the fact that if she wants to get into more aquarium and tropical fish kind of sciences and things, that she will need to go to a larger city to do that, and therefore leaving her kind of seaside town behind for a bit. But yeah, it's a really, really cute series. If you're not already reading it, I'd highly recommend it. Another really cute queer series, Love Me for Who I Am. This is a newer one. I believe there's 2 volumes out now, but I only have this first one. And this is about a non-binary character here who has this male classmate who just sees them as a boy that dresses like a girl and is like, hey, I have the perfect place for you, which is a maid cafe that is completely made up of seemingly boys that dress like girls. And it is, at least in this first volume, a lot of kind of explanation about being non-binary versus being a boy who likes to cross-dress versus being a trans girl. And yeah, I mean, based on the author's note in the back, this author is not non-binary, from my interpretation of their note in the back, and you can kind of tell. Yeah, it just felt like I like it and I'm going to continue it and I'm glad for the representation, but it felt to me a little bit clunky in terms of the identities of, like, it felt like somebody who wasn't part of the community trying to explain what these identities are. And I could be completely wrong, and maybe this person is part of the community and it's just the way that they've decided to write the story. But to me, it felt very much like somebody who had done clearly a lot of research, but just is slightly off the mark. But that's just me. If you've read this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well, but it was one I was curious about immediately, and it was out of stock on Chapters for a long time after it released, and so it finally came back in stock, and I picked it up, and I'm glad I did, and I will continue it. It just, like, when I read Our Dreams at Dusk, that's my dog's head in the background, if you're wondering. When I read Our Dreams at Dusk, it immediately struck me, you could tell that was an Own Voices work. You could tell that person was part of the community and they knew what they were talking about, and that they took the time to really, the identities that they didn't personally exist within. You could tell that they had done research or knew people personally who were part of those communities. Whereas this one, it feels like a bit more like, but maybe it's just because it's the first volume, and maybe as it goes on, it gets a bit better with that. But I guess we'll have to see. Then I read the final volume, 8 of O Maidens in Your Savage Season. What a bizarre series. I loved every second of it. These teenage girls kind of learning about sex through their literature club, and learning what that means, and kind of battling with their thoughts on, like, purity versus sensuality, and their own feelings and thoughts towards sex and masturbation and love and lust and all of these things. I'm not going to open it because I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, I mean, it was a good volume, and I certainly will be doing a full series review on that because I loved it all the way through. Then, another one I'm really enjoying is Volume 5 of Bakemonogatari. This one is still, we're dealing with the monkey's paw. I really, really, really am loving this manga adaptation of the Monogatari series. I'm curious to see how far they're going to go with it. Like if they'll just do Bakemonogatari or if they'll go farther into the other kind of related stories in the universe. But for now, really, really enjoying it. And then I read or reread the first omnibus of I Am a Hero because I was in the mood for this for some reason. I didn't go any farther with it. I figured I might read a couple of these, but I read the first one, and most people know what this is. Zombie apocalypse, dude who's kind of losing his mind, who happens to own a gun. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I liked it the first time, and I certainly, like it. I liked it the second time reading this as well. I just didn't. I think it's been too soon since I read it the first time that I just wasn't interested in going further at this point. But then I read majority of What's Michael, the first Fat Cat collection. There's going to be 2 of these. I was about maybe halfway through this omnibus. So I read the second half of it during the readathon here. This is an excellent, older, kind of classic series surrounding cats, mostly Michael, and just cat shenanigans, and it's hilarious. And then I read The Kingdom of the Gods. This is 2 stories in here, actually. There's The Kingdom of the Gods, and then there's a second story that I can't remember the name of. But this is a pretty gruesome, zombie-esque, but Burning Hell is the second story. Zombie-esque story, and then the second one is about an island where they send the worst criminals, and it's like a cannibal and a dude who dissects people on this island together. And I enjoyed both. They're both very short, so if you're expecting some like really intense, fleshed out characters and plot, you're not going to get that here because they're really, really short. This is not a very thick book, and it's got those 2 stories in it. But I enjoyed it because I went into it knowing I had read a review from, I think, Otaku USA that had said that, it kind of ends abruptly and there's not too much substance here, but I went into it knowing that, so that was fine, and I enjoyed it thoroughly as I read it. So it was a nice, creepy one that I had not read yet, so that was fun. And then I finally finished What I Own of the Wallflower. So I read 26 through 29, and yeah, there's 36 in total, I believe. But I don't own anything past 29 because I bought the first 29 volumes as a lot from someone used. I do not think I will go any further with this just because it is a very repetitive gag series, and I think that 29 volumes was enough to get the gist of it. If you've read the ending and you think that I really should read the ending and pick up the final volumes that I need, please let me know. But otherwise, if it's more of the same and it just ends the same, then I'm not really interested. But it was fun as it was. If I find the few volumes I need used for really cheap, I will pick them up for sure, but I won't be going out of my way to buy these, the rest of this series. But I certainly enjoyed it for what it was. It was a fun ride, and I'll probably reread some of these volumes again in the future because they are fun and funny and quirky and creepy. Because the main character's in love with horror stuff, and so there's a lot of like funny gore and things. But yeah, I mean, it was fun while it lasted, but I not really super invested in getting more of it, and I've had it for a couple of years now, I think, so I'm super glad that I finally caught up and finished what I own of it. Next, I read Volume 1 of Girl Got Game, and unfortunately, I only have Volume 1 and 8, so I can't read any more of this. It's a 10-volume series about a girl who goes to a school, but she's in the boys' dorm because her father wants her to play on the basketball team. And so she's disguised herself as a boy. She's playing on the basketball team. of course, falls in love because it's a romance. But yeah, it's a sports shoujo, which is a lot of fun, and I've had my eye on it for years. Finally acquired volume 1 so I could at least read the first one, but I've had volume 8 for a while now. But I'm picking them up as I see them used, and I've only ever found volume 1 and 8, so hopefully I will have all of it one day. And then I read the rest of what I have of Planet Ladder. So that was volumes 4, 5, and 6. There is a 7th volume that I do not have, but this is a girl gets whisked away to another universe because apparently she is a princess of some kind. And there's a bunch of different planets that are all interconnected by some kind of ladder. It's more of just like a thing that they can like teleport, I guess. But anyway, she's apparently the princess who decides which world gets to live, and the others will all perish. So in the 6th volume, we're in the middle of this war that's happening. So I guess I will not find out how the war ends because I don't have the final volume. But I'm glad that I finished reading the ones that I do have. And if I happen to come across the final one day, then hooray for me. But, I mean, I got this for free, the first 6 volumes. So it was pretty. The art's pretty. The story is okay. It's kind of captivating, but it's not something I would have bought, like, for myself. But certainly happy to have it for free, and it was enjoyable enough as it is. So, and then I read volume 2 of Black Lagoon. Again, more guns, more violence. This volume was better because we're past the like introduction phase of volume 1, and we got into a couple really cool arcs here, and those were very entertaining. And then that was the last physical volume I read, and then right at the end of the night, I read 3 volumes of Kasane digitally through Kodansha, because I bought the Humble Bundle that was going on with all those spooky titles. And so, yeah, I read Kasane volumes 1 through 3, which is about this girl who's super ugly, and her mother was this famous actress, and she left her this red lipstick and said, put on the red lipstick when you're in trouble. And so when she puts on this red lipstick and she kisses someone, she takes their face. And she becomes this beautiful other person's face for a period of time. And it's very creepy and dark, and clearly there's going to be some creepier stuff happening down the line. But yeah, it was pretty good, and I recommend checking it out if you have not already, and if you enjoy reading digital manga. Yeah. Enjoyed the readathon as always. I liked that it started and ended on a weekend because I usually get the most reading done on the weekends because I work during the week, and so I was able to bang out quite a few volumes on the Sunday, read a few throughout the week, and then bang out a bunch more on Saturday. So yeah, thank you to the hosts, Bizarre Individual, Panda Post, and Mama Loves Manga. And yeah, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments about any of the titles you saw, do let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.